being a freelancer down under and building a business from scratch in my 30s. Welcome to my new mini-series where it's all about making new friends, making money, and finding the right home. In the last episode, I already shared about how to make new friends down under or overseas. And in this one, I want to talk about the money because money is a big one, isn't it? This one is even more special because I'm going to share my experience of being a freelancer down under and building a business from scratch in my 30s again. It should be clear that the first thing you're going to do once you moved down under or are already living down under is to sort out the whole visa situation, because work permission, you guys, is the most important. If you don't have that, you don't want to be kicked out the country, do you? Once that's sorted, you can then focus on finding work / finding new clients that bring you in money. When I moved to Sydney, I was already aware that no one was waiting for me. And that is like the most important thing for you to know. No one fucking cares. And that doesn't mean you're an unlovable person. Like, it just means what it means. No one is waiting for you. No one fucking cares. And you will have to put yourself out there. You will have to make yourself be seen in order to build yourself a reputation, build yourself a business, the kind of business you want to run. Once my visa situation was sorted, I actually got onto the platform straight away. I simply Googling hand makeup artistry / hairdressing down under, what salons, what agencies are out there for me right now that are looking for new artists, so I could message them and see whether or not they have opportunities for me. And I would just like basically introduce myself. Hi, I recently moved here. This is what I have to offer. This is my portfolio. I would really love to get to work with you. And it's funny because one of the first agencies I found actually ended up being one of the biggest income streams for me. And I ended up moving to different cities for it, expanding my career even more and creating myself a whole new role in this company, which was pretty cool. Of course, I made sure to really like show my qualities, right? And highlight my skills and abilities. I told them, that I had a lot of international experience that I gained over the past 10 years, or back then it was 8. I made sure that I would also present myself in the best possible light. But again, don't forget that no one's waiting for you. Once I did that, I didn't actually hear back from many of them. Some ghosted me entirely, even though I followed up, and some didn't get back to me as quickly as I hoped they would. And this is something you really, really need to understand and never take personal, because it is not. There's literally hundreds of people out there right now looking for a job opportunity in your field, okay? And you are not special. You might have certain skills, you might have been amazing in your own home country, but you are in a new country now. And there's different rules and there's different requirements, right? Maybe even new and different skills you haven't learned yet that are required of you in order to really make it in your industry. In my case, I literally had to follow up 3 times, sometimes even 4 times, until people would give me a clear yes or no. And funnily enough, the agency I ended up working with the most got back to me after I had followed up again, saying thank you so much for reaching out again, because they had a lot of like stuff on their plate. But that didn't mean that they didn't like my work or didn't want me on their team. Like, they simply forgot about it. So I got into this agency, and then I had 2 other agencies, one that I also worked with quite frequently, but it wasn't 100% matched. I became aware of more and more after 6 to 8 months, and then I just entirely stopped working with them. And then there was this other agency that I really wanted to be part of, and the founder of it actually was so kind and nice, and she always kept telling me, look, like, now is not the right time. I actually took on new team members just recently. I really love your work, but like, so there were always these buts, and I actually ended up never getting into this agency, at least not yet. But she never said no. And at some point, actually, because I kept following up, right? I just like let a few weeks pass by, reached out again, tried to like keep myself like in mind, right? For when she might need a new team member. And because she never gave me a clear yes or no, at some point I felt like, okay, now I feel like I'm getting a bit like annoying, right? And I guess we've all been there. And it's a big thing that actually like limits a lot of people, even only like putting themselves out there in the first place, which should not be the case, especially when you're a freelancer, because you literally can't afford it. But I reached this point where I felt it's necessary for me to just say it as it is. So I told her, look, this is me reaching out again, and I'm actually going to continue because I really, really, really want to be part of your team unless you give me a clear no. And it's totally fine. Like, I'm not gonna take it personal if, like, you don't feel like I'm 100% match, or it's not gonna happen in the next 1-2 years. That is fine. Just give me a clear no, because I will respect that and I will leave you alone. She got back to me saying it's a no for now, but I'm not saying that it's gonna be a no in a year from now. And that was all I needed to hear in that moment. I stopped messaging her and I completely focused on the 2 agencies I was with at the time, and also my own private clients. Yeah, I definitely learned how important it is to actually properly communicate. Properly communicate and speak out your needs and desires. Let people know, because only when they know they can act. And they can help you out. And maybe, maybe it's not them that are the right match for you, but maybe they know someone, and maybe you impress them by staying determined and being the kind of person who actually shows their willingness to work and their willingness to be part of their company. That is big, that is huge. Not many have that anymore. But a lot of employers are actually looking for exactly that, right? The way I see it is a yes or a not yet, unless I get a clear no. If I don't receive that, I'm gonna keep trying. Sorry, not sorry. And it's definitely gotten me a lot of work, a lot of clients, a lot of opportunities, a lot of doors that opened up for me because I kept being persistent instead of giving up and taking things personal. While I got onto the platforms and into new agencies and built myself a new clientele, and actually also a reputation that would help me get in new clients, I never stopped telling people who I am and what I do. Wherever I went, I would always make sure they knew who I was and what I was about. I told them about my offers. I told them about my experience. Of course, not in a way like where they didn't even ask and I was just like, but for example, I went to the gym once, tried out a new course, and I got to meet this instructor, but I didn't know that she was actually working as a model and also DJing, meaning she had a big network, right? And I told her about me, my journey, my work, and she was like, oh, I'm actually looking for a hand makeup artist who I can collaborate with for certain projects and jobs in the future. And I was like, how perfect is that? So I offered her a free hand makeup session for her to get to know me, my work, and see whether or not she actually likes my signature. And yes, you heard me right. I did that completely for free, which is another thing you will have to be open for when moving abroad and living in an entire new country. Especially as a freelancer, you have to be willing to also work for free here and there. And I'm not saying like do it all the time, but especially in my field, for example, it's all about people liking your work, right? It's a very personal thing, as in they either like your signature style or they don't. And if they don't, that's okay. Then they are not your people and it's simply not a match. But if they do, trust me, they're going to recommend you to other people who will then pay you for your work, right? But first you will have to get one foot in. When I actually first started my business in 2015, while still living in Germany, I had one bride that year, one bride. And somehow, through word of mouth, I had 10 brides the year after already without any ads. I did not even have a website at the time. So never underestimate your network. Never underestimate word of mouth. Never underestimate how important it actually is that people get to know you and your work. So tell them, tell anyone you meet who you are and what you're about, because it will pay off. The next thing is that you need to be better than average. Good enough is not gonna make the cut. Like, you have to be better than average. You have to be superior. You have to be top notch. If you're not, don't be surprised if you're lacking clients, if you're lacking jobs and work opportunity, right? Because you need to be interesting. You need to be someone people actually think of when they have a new project that they need, e.g. a hand makeup artist for, or whatever your job is, right? You need to be someone that immediately pops up in their minds. And I'm not just talking about your skills here, but because of your personality, because your personality is so fucking interesting and good to be around that they want to have you for it. And when you are, the money you make, the clients that get in, and the job opportunities you receive are a no-brainer, because it's an of course. Of course that wants to be part of my world because I am that. You get it? Like it's an energy thing. When I, for example, started with that agency, I remember that, of course, first they didn't know me. But once they realized that I was willing to put in extra hours and do that extra client, even though it wasn't booked in advance, and I was being flexible, I was willing to put in the work and willing to show them that I am worth it, I actually proved myself through the work and effort I put in. They then started giving me more jobs, better clients, more money. So again, don't feel too proud to prove yourself, especially in the whole personal development and spiritual love and light world. People make it all about like, oh, know your worth and like, don't feel like you ever have to prove yourself. You're good as you are. Well, if you were, you would be where you want to be, but you are not. And especially in a new country, you can't expect to be here straight away because again, no one's waiting for you, okay? And this has got nothing to do with your actual worth. It doesn't. It just has to do with people not knowing you yet, people first having to build a relationship with you, trust in you, okay? And once they do, they then see your worth also, but they can't before. So be okay with having to prove yourself the first few months, maybe even years of living abroad and building a business from scratch. With that being said, I am not saying that you should not have clear boundaries and high standards. Not at all. I actually believe you need them in order to be a respectable person in your industry, because if you let people walk all over you, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to let people know who you are, what you stand for, and hold yourself to that higher standard as well, so that people can do that too. Because people treat you exactly how you treat yourself. So therefore, it's very important you know how you want to be treated and you treat yourself exactly that way already. Because otherwise, you will allow people to literally walk all over you and use you for certain work that you don't want to be doing or that you've outgrown years ago. Stick to your boundaries and your standards as much as you can and never shy away from asking for what you want. Because only if you communicate your desires and needs, people can see whether or not they can meet you there. And this is actually how I also created an entire new role in the agency I worked with during my time down under, because when I realized that my Sydney chapter had come to an end and I wanted more and different and was open to move to a new city, I reached out to them, letting them know, look, I'm thinking about this. Would you have enough work for me in Melbourne as well? And is there any chance for me to bring in my skills in a different field? Because I knew that they were very entrepreneurial, very open, very dynamic. So I told them, look, these are my skills. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can see myself do for you. If there's anything we can make out of this, let's do it. That's how I got into education and started working as an education coordinator, where we hosted workshops for hand makeup artistry in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. And I basically got to do the entire organization for the logistics, for the venue, like whatever there was to organize, it was my part, making sure it would all run smoothly. And it was such a great opportunity that I'm so grateful for, because I again met so many new people and widened and expanded my skills by simply asking and telling them where I was at, what I want, what I need, what I expect, and seeing how and if they could meet me there. Communication, you guys. Communication is key for success. Another point though is never ever shy away from tough conversations, because you also of course will have to negotiate not just the financial aspect but anything basically that comes with your new role. I remember having a chat with my boss and him coming up with an offer that didn't sit quite right with me, because as an artist and as a freelancer I was used to a very different hourly rate, a much higher one. And I told him and he was like, yeah, I'm fully aware of that. Yeah, we are a startup and we are literally creating this entire new role for you and we don't know yet where this is going, we can talk about you earning more once, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, that's all fine, but I'm still not cool with your offer. I want XYZ. And so we kind of met in the middle. I hope this gave you a very clear idea of what it actually means to make money overseas, make money in a new country, especially as a freelancer. It definitely isn't easy. But if it were, everyone would do it. And you are not everyone, okay? You are someone who actually is brave enough to move to a new country and start a new life all by yourself down there. That is huge. That is big. So never ever put yourself on the same level as people who never leave their country at all and who always stay in their comfort zone. You are doing something courageous here and you can be proud of that. But now act accordingly, okay? Put yourself out there. Let people know who you are. Let them know what you do, what you're about. And be willing to have tough conversations. Be willing to communicate your desires and needs, build a network, build reputation, never be too proud to put in the work and to be a nobody until you aren't anymore. Be willing to start from zero again because no one is waiting for you and that's not personal, it's just what it is. In the next video, I'm gonna share all about finding a new home down under in a very competitive market, talking about two of the most expensive cities in the world, but I made it happen and so can you, so stay tuned for that. Feel free to subscribe, send the video to someone you feel needs to watch this today, and leave a comment if you like about your experience, maybe the one thing that actually was a light bulb moment for you today. See you in the next one, the Queen of Dreams.